Hello, Grizzlies, and welcome back to another episode of Grizzly True Crime. My name is Gisela K, and we are here today waiting for another press conference. Thank you so much for being here. If you wouldn't mind hitting the thumbs up and sharing this video, hashtag, I see the new hashtag being used is Idaho Homicides. Idaho Homicides or Idaho Students or University of Idaho. Any of those are great so that it gets categorized all in one place for everyone to get the information easily. If you could also add hashtag Grizzly True Crime, that would be great. Thank you so much, mods. Welcome, patrons, members, and everyone. If you're brand new here, I've just turned on subscribers only mode because there's a lot of people here already. Thank you for choosing to watch here with us. It is half an hour to the press conference, and so we'll just go over some of the news and things while we wait. And what else can I tell you? I think that's all of it. Yes? Okay. And if you're brand new here, then thank you for being here. All right, let me quickly show you this. I feel like a lot of my sentences start like that, huh? On these live. Let me quickly show you. So many things to show you. Okay, so we shall look at this. They say, just so you don't get your hopes up, media advisory, City of Moscow Police Department, right? Media advisory. No critical updates. That's what they say. Sorry, I'm laughing at Vanachim says, I'm wearing my press conference pajamas. That's okay. Wear your press conference pajamas. Yeah, I'm dressed for the press conference. Okay, so the City of Moscow Police Department is holding a press conference at 1 p.m. today, Wednesday, November 23rd, in the Alumni Lounge of the ICCU Arena, 900 Stadium Drive, on the University of Idaho Moscow campus. The speakers today will be Moscow Police Chief James Fry, Moscow Police Captain Roger Lanier, Idaho State Police Colonel Kedrick Wills, University of Idaho President Scott Green, and Moscow Deputy City Supervisor Tyler Palmer. The same lineup we saw in the last press conference as well, which was on Sunday. Welcome to everyone who joins membership today. Welcome, Phantasmic Ether. Thank you to JT for the $5 super sticker. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. PT Notterman, I think you got the wrong invitation. We must be dressed for this press conference. We are ready. Okay. Emma Simmons says, if there's no critical updates, then why bother? Well, if we look at this, yes, we accept the cookies. Just hold on. Sorry. We must always accept the cookies. I'll show you this. There's a few articles that they've written. I must say, in this case, I don't really understand the public pressure of like, what's going on? Why don't you have anything yet? Why? Because these things take time, you know? An investigation. I mean, 4 brutal murders in one house. Can you imagine just all the DNA, everything they got to get? Just, I know that we looked at the expanding of the crime scene yesterday and all that. I'm just like, in my mind, this will take time. So to be here where we are today, which is what, November 23rd, yes? This happened on November 13th. Like 10 days, and people are like, what's going on, police? What is happening? Why are you guys screwing up? I don't know. I don't think they are. You know, I think in the beginning saying that there's no threat to the community, yeah, that wasn't so great because, of course, that's a little reckless because you just don't know that. They think it's personal and targeted, but they don't know that. It could also be some friggin' rando, huh? Create Design Inch. Thank you so much for your €5 super sticker. And Angela Petrick as well. Hey, Gisela, you put the G in Grizzly. I like that. Thank you. So glad I found your channel. Thank you so much. Yes. Okay. So if we look here, they say mixed messaging and unclear answers from police would have given whoever fatally stabbed 4 students in the Idaho college town of Moscow more time to flee, law enforcement experts say. As the investigation entered its second week without a suspect and police expanded a dragnet around the student's off-campus home, Moscow Police Chief James Fry told reporters Sunday that I can't say if the person's here, I can't say what community the person's in. That uncertainty with the killer or killers still at large has fueled a mounting frustration among students at the University of Idaho, the victims' families, and the wider community, and put a focus on the local police's handling on the investigation into the slayings in the early morning hours of November 13th. Like, what do you guys think? Let me just see what you think for a second here. Baymacat, I agree, it could be a Ted Bundy wannabe. Yeah. I get that everyone is really nervous, you know? But to be like, hey, law enforcement, what are you doing now? Aren't they doing the investigation? Thank you, Melissa, and thank you, Pernille. To everyone asking if I have a Discord, oh, hail to the no is my answer to that. No, I don't have a Discord. I've learned, let's say, from other content creators. It's probably not the greatest idea. It's very hard to moderate that as well and make sure that there's not all kinds of infighting and all that. No, we don't want that. Keep it Grizzly, everyone. Okay, so they say there's definitely a lot of confusion about the mixed messages, said Emma Jackson, 18, a freshman who left the campus early ahead of the Thanksgiving break. I'm frustrated by the lack of information and the change from no threat to a possible threat. So I agree with that. That's a problem. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who's wanting more clarity or who is uneasy about returning to school if no suspects are found before the end of the break. The last murder that happened in this area was in 2015, 7 years ago. In the hours after the victims' bodies were discovered in their private residence about a half a block from the university, Moscow police told the public that while there is no one in custody, the department does not believe there's an ongoing community risk. 2 days later, police described the slayings as an isolated, targeted attack in which an edged weapon, like a knife, was used. I'm going to go back to the other Facebook post because I got to show you that because they don't want us to say K-bar knife. They want us to say fixed blade knife. No weapon was located, and officials continued to say there was no imminent threat. But that changed the following day, like literally the next day. They say, we cannot say, oh, sorry, that changed the following day. We cannot say there's no threat to the community. Fryer said at a news conference November 16th. John DiCarlo, a professional criminal justice at the University of New Haven and a former police chief in Branford, Connecticut, said there is a particular urgency in those initial hours of a homicide investigation. He said informing the public to be vigilant about suspicious activity is key guidance in potentially apprehending the killer or killers, who would otherwise have the opportunity to evade law enforcement. That's the problem, right? Sorry, I'm laughing. No, for sure. The Tokyo Grizzly Cub kid. Definitely a big no to a public Discord, lol. Yes. Okay. Wait, I understand now. I must put it, sorry, on slow. Sorry, mods. You're probably like, oh my word, lady, put it on slow mode. I'm putting it on slow mode, 60 seconds. If you are a member, then slow mode doesn't apply to you, which I think is a very cool perk for $1. All right. So they say the big question remains why, in a multiple homicide, did the police department say there was no clear threat to the community? He said, it's something that you have to explain. Otherwise, you're leaving people with a false sense of security. Ooh, and that's not what you want to do. Unclear as well was when the Moscow police asked for assistance from more robust law enforcement agencies. It was just 2 days after the slayings when the department said in a news release that it was working closely with the Idaho State Police and other state and federal agencies. Neither Moscow police nor the state police returned requests for comment about when additional law enforcement resources were requested. As many as 20 state police investigators and 15 patrol troopers are now assisting, while the FBI said it dispatched 22 investigators to Moscow with additional agents on the case, which we saw was in Salt Lake City, Utah, and West Virginia, and what was it called? Treasure something. Can't remember the name now. What's that area? Okay. We brought in the resources that we brought in to keep our community as safe as we can, Fry said Sunday. His insistence followed days of rumors about the victims, including unfounded speculation that their deaths were tied to a crime of passion. That initial assurance of no danger to the community led the father of one victim to call out the police. The silence further compounds our family's agony after our son's murder. Ethan Chapin's father, Jim, said in a statement, adding, I urge officials to speak the truth, share what they know, find the assailant, and protect the greater community. Moscow's police force of 36 officers and personnel covers a largely rural city of almost 26,000 residents, with the population swelling by thousands when the university is in session. Officers typically deal with noise complaints, domestic disputes, and disorderly conduct calls. So then, if we look at, hold on, where's this other one? This one. So earlier, this was 18 hours ago now, where they say Moscow homicide update, November 22nd, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. Updated information, resource webpage. A new webpage on the City of Moscow website has been set up as a consolidated location for information resources related to the investigation. The new page can be found at, and we shall open it and look at it. They say investigators have looked extensively into information they received about Kaylee Goncalves. And I do hear other news reporters saying Goncalves. Gonzalves is spelled differently, right? Am I right or what? I don't want to say it wrong. I just want to, it's a C, so Goncalves. Having a stalker. They have pursued hundreds of pieces of information related to this topic and have not been able to verify or identify a stalker. So that's interesting. If you have information that can help detectives, please contact the tip line at 208-883-7180 or email tipline@ci.moscow.id.us. Digital media can be submitted to, there's an FBI link now as well. So make sure to go to the Facebook page and we'll look at the link that they just sent us. Erica's SUV Travel says, I believe that he will strike again. You know, the concern is that multiple former law enforcement officers, criminal profilers, professionals in the industry say the same. They are concerned that he will strike again. Green Eyes, the press conference has not happened yet. For everyone joining now, the press conference is happening in about almost 15 minutes, 18 minutes or so. It's happening on the hour, and we are ready. We will be ready as soon as it's there. It's pinned and everything, okay? So they say weapon. There's been much conversation about the terminology used to describe the weapon. The type of knife thought to be used in the attacks is believed to be a fixed blade knife. Detectives continue to look for the weapon. There will be a news conference to update the public on the investigation. And if you've only just joining now, just remember, they say here, media advisory, no critical updates. So we're not expecting like massive news today. No one's in cuffs yet. I do think it's very soon. Yes. Gonzalves. Interesting. Thank you. I always say in true crime, I don't think pronunciation, the surname is, I want to get it right. Gonzalves. But damn, when the pronunciation police roll in, right? Thank you, Faye. You said thank you for covering this, Miss Grizzly. Okay, so we've looked at their updates. Now what I want to show you here is the surviving, the unharmed roommates have they've gotten tattoos in honor of their 4 roommates who were murdered. So let's have a look at that.
University students choking back tears at his funeral.
Today we're here to honor the life and legacy of our son and brother, Ethan Chapin, one of the most incredible people you'll ever know.
Stacy Chapin was with Ethan's triplet siblings.
Yes, so you can see Ethan's triplet siblings, a sister and a brother, standing right behind his mother. Or right beside, right? Oh, man. Okay.
And their father.
Together, we want to extend gratitude to the Moscow Police Department, who now carry the burden every day, not only for us, but for all of the impacted families.
And one of the surviving roommates, Dylan Mortensen, just posted a haunting tribute to her slain friends. It's a tattoo of their initials with angel's wings. She posted, Maddie, Kaylee, Zana, Ethan, MKXE, love you always and forever.
Okay, so I'm just going to pause it there so you can see the tattoos. Thank you, Mariana Nikin, for your $4.99 super sticker. Rob says, how terribly sad for the family. Yes, and thank you, Andy, for that. Kara says, all the clues and evidence pointing to targeted by someone they knew. Yes and no. It could also, it could also not be, as we saw with Ted Bundy and Danny Rowling. But it's more likely, in my opinion, it's more likely that it's someone they knew. Based on just what law enforcement is saying, but let's see what they continue to say. But let me know what you guys think as well. So here's the tattoos, MKXE, the initials of the 4 victims who passed away, who were murdered. Maddie, Kaylee, Zaina, and Ethan. Thank you so much to Richard Kanuck for that. I really appreciate that super sticker. Yeah, Julie says it may not be someone they know. Yeah. I think it's good to be on the fence at this point because we don't know. And I think a lot of people find it like a really scary thought that it could just be some stranger. Just, wow. Just like someone who didn't know them at all. Maybe someone was watching the house for a while. Maybe not. I must also say, I was watching Unsolved No More. Yes. And he was saying that someone like this would likely, the fact that it happened on a weekend, they would likely have been pretty drunk at the time of this happening, or on some sort of substance that would be typical in these type of killings as well. It's not a guarantee. Imagine this person doing this completely sober. That's a scary thought too. But he was speculating that the person could have been out that night as well. Maybe it's just someone that saw them at the bar or something, or at the food truck or anywhere like that. So that was interesting as well. Thank you, the red stiletto. Okay, continuing on with this.
Believe the matching tattoo is on the arm of the other surviving roommate, Bethany Funk. Pressure is mounting on cops for a breakthrough, but former FBI Assistant Director Bill Swecker says police may be on the wrong track.
It appears that at this point they're stumped.
He believes that the murders are the work of a predator.
Someone who selected them either that evening, saw them in a bar or at the food truck or somewhere else, one or more of these four, and followed them back to the residence and did this on a sort of a random basis.
Police are also speaking.
Could be scary thought. If you are brand new to this case, I would highly doubt that everyone here today is not up to speed on the case, but I do have a playlist for you. We've looked at timelines and map time and done a whole lot of presentations. I hope you'll catch up on some of those. The playlist is linked in the description box for you. I'll put in the pinned comments afterwards as well, because we've looked at a lot of stuff. So if there's anything you missed, please do check it out. But yeah, sorry, I'm just reading your thoughts here. I don't know how to say it. Imo Kidoro says hate, anger, revenge. It doesn't have to be that way. Let me think what it is. Oh, no, I can't remember the third one. I don't want to misquote this. Let me think a bit while we watch this.
Speaking out about the bizarre discovery of a dog named Buddy, found skinned and mutilated 3 weeks before the murders. Cops said today that the dog's death is unrelated to this incident and may have been caused by an animal. The owners disagree.
The supervisor came up and he said, no, this was done by a human, not an animal.
No. That music, YouTube will not like that. Let's just put this on silent for a second here. You could see Maddie. I mean, it could be a social media stalker too. I just want to see if there's still sound on here.
House. That's Maddie Mogan dancing. And Kaylee Gonzalez wore this pretty costume for Halloween, inspired by the movie Mean Girls.
Oh my word. Sorry, this Inside Edition. Ooh, the music on YouTube, you know how it goes. They could block the stream if they're like, you know what? You're playing music. Okay, YouTube is super sensitive with music. So I can't play all of that too much. I remember the third one. The reasons people kill, according to a cold case detective, Ken Maines, is greed, sex, or revenge. So it could be either of those. It doesn't just have to be, some rage. I mean, I get it. There would be underlying rage no matter what. But it could be any of those three reasons as well. If I missed anyone, I think I missed someone. Hold on. Let's quickly go look. Thank you for becoming a member, everyone. Oh, damn. I'm missing things. I'm so sorry. Let's see. Beefwood, thank you so much. Welcome in. Hawkins Badge. And Bella. I see I missed one up here. Thank you. No, for sure. The Tokyo Grizzly Cup for the new pen and maybe a Discord server if you feel so inclined. Sorry to disappoint. I do not feel so inclined. Never going to happen. But for the new pen, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Double Z says, and humiliation as well. Gee, that's another reason. Yeah, I think when they say greed, sex, or revenge, that would be the motive. And I mean, humiliation would already be part of it. And they'd see their victims as objects, So yeah. Okay. I just want to see. Let's just see. I just want to go past the song quickly. This is also a song. This would be Kaylee with the Labradoodle. There's the dog, everyone. Everyone's still asking me about the dog a lot. But there he is, Murphy, the dog. one thought I had was, what if when the person, maybe the sliding door was not locked but closed, and maybe the killer entering the house opened the sliding door and then the dog ran outside. Maybe the dog was really excited to like, ooh, let me go run outside. You know how it would go? I can imagine that. So like barking in the house as things are happening, people are all asking, why would that not happen? Well, I don't know. If you know dogs, aren't they so excited when you open the door? I mean, even Fury, my cat, is. He's like, yeah, let me out. So exciting to explore outside. So if someone was like, okay, but then the question is, why did he not bark at someone? Let's say if it's someone unfamiliar. Well, the thing is, it's a college party house, and I know some of you say, no, it's not a party house, but they did have parties there. It's just the neighbors said they weren't as loud as some of the others, but neighbors are also describing it as a party house. So someone's saying, I saw a picture that Jack has the dog. Was that real? I also saw that picture, and I do not know if it's real. Christina says the dog was locked in the bathroom. If you have a source for that, please let me know, or please send it to me on email. And the dog might also know the person, says Timely Manner. Could be. Anyway, so here is the dog. You can see Murphy there. Okay, wait. Now we can put the sound back on. Thank you so much, Tokyo Grizzly. I feel like if it was a targeted or rage killing, they would have more evidence outside of the house. It feels more calculated. Interesting. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, Magnetic Janet says, great point, G. That absolutely could have happened. The dog running outside. I can imagine that. Yes.
And there's no dog barking.
We don't know if the dog was barking or not.
Police say Murphy has been turned over to a responsible party. It's not known if that's Jack Ducour, Kaylee's ex-boyfriend. They shared the dog and also dated for 5 years, but recently broke up.
Okay. So we have that. And then I'll just leave it there so that I can pin it for you afterwards. Here as well, they say blood-soaked Idaho crime scene, major challenge for investigators from an expert. The press conference is happening in 7 minutes. I will monitor that as well, just to make sure we don't miss a minute. Yes, thank you, Beholder. Yeah, exactly. So they say here, blood-soaked Idaho crime scene. Okay, major challenge. The blood-soaked crime scene where 4 University of Idaho students were brutally murdered more than a week ago is a major challenge for investigators, an expert told Fox News Digital. From a blood evidence standpoint, this is a profoundly bloody scene, said Joseph Scott Morgan, distinguished scholar of applied forensics at Jacksonville State University. It's going to be a very complicated case when you go through blood evidence, when you go to do DNA typing. It's a major challenge. Ethan, Zana, Madison, and Kaylee were stabbed to death November 13th between 3 and 4 a.m. in a rental house near campus in Moscow, Idaho. Police believe the victims, who were found on the 2nd and 3rd floors, were ambushed in their sleep. They've yet to identify a suspect in the horrific crime or determine whether there was more than one assailant. Of course, the possibility still exists that it's more than one assailant. Each of the students was stabbed multiple times in the chest area. They said they didn't specify. They said one fatal to the chest, but I don't know if they were stabbed multiple times in the chest area, unless they know more. Likely by the same weapon, and at least one victim had defensive wounds, according to the Latah County coroner, Kathy Maybert. In stabbing cases, perpetrators often injure themselves, said Joseph Giacalone, an adjunct professor at John Jay College of Criminal Justice and a retired NYPD sergeant. If you're stabbing and hit the bone, the knife kicks back and your hand gets sliced, he said. Morgan added it could be very difficult to isolate a sample of the killer's DNA if he left one behind. If we believe this is a single killer with a single weapon, the killer is migrating from body to body and you'll have what's called commingling of blood, Morgan said. That's also a thing. That is such a scary thought, right? A trigger warning. I'm not going to be too graphic. I just want to say if they're going from one victim, you know, there's always going to be, there's the first one, right, out of the 4, and then you go to the next one. It's not like he's cleaning the knife in between, so that's why they say there's commingling of blood. Here's the rub. If this blood is all commingled, it's difficult to distinguish the individual samples. Investigators contacted businesses to see if any had recently sold a fixed blade knife. Wait, see the time? 5 minutes. One store manager told the Idaho Statesman that police had specifically asked him about a K-bar style knife. So that's where it came from, because of the store manager saying the police came there and specifically asked about a K-bar knife. So that's why we're all quoting K-bar knife, but now the police are saying they believe it's a fixed blade knife. And I think they're saying that so that everyone doesn't just focus on a K-bar knife, a fixed blade knife. Morgan was surprised by this detail. It's a combat knife, single-edged with a hilt, he said. It's a short blade, not as robust as other survival knives. He speculated that investigators could have zeroed in on this type of knife because it has a hilt, which may have left bruises around the stab wounds when it was violently thrust into the victims. Oh, that's a horrible thought, that. Tiff Knox, thank you so much for that super sticker. They say both Morgan and Gierkelone stressed that the investigation is in its early stages. I agree. And the analysis of the crime scene is speculative. Gonsalvez's parents told Fox News that sifting through the evidence would be a lengthy process based on information that they received from the police. This wasn't like a pinpoint crime. This person was sloppy, the slain student's father, Steve Gonsalves, said. There's a mess there, and they're going to have to go through that point by point, and that's going to take a lot of time. That's why they reached out to other facilities to help them with that lab work. All right, we're just going to quickly check on this. In 2 minutes, it's beginning. Retired FBI agent Jim Clemente, who now works as a producer for CBS's Criminal Minds. We looked at a clip of his yesterday, said another major hurdle for investigators is the mass exodus of students for the Thanksgiving break. Many in the community also fled over fears the killer remained on the loose. Heather Sparrow says it baffles me how there isn't blood residue outside of the house from the killer, considering the description of the scene. Same, but yeah, you just don't know if maybe they left their shoes outside. You know what I mean? Slip their shoes off, go in the house, let's say with socks on, murder everyone, then come back out and then put their shoes on. That's one way. Okay, so I just have to quickly read this because we're going to move on to the press conference now. Thank you for being here for it as well. So they say that the exodus would mask the offender leaving town, he said. It could also mean that witnesses who saw something relevant are also gone. The town of 25,000, which had not recorded a single murder in 7 years prior to the stabbings, would have fewer surveillance cameras than a larger city, noted Clemente. As for the killer's attributes, he said that they didn't think the attack was random and described the killer as sloppy and young. And he's not the first one to describe the killer as potentially being young. Some have speculated maybe even 17. That's scary too. Sabby C, thank you so much. As a mom of twins, my heart especially breaks for Ethan's mom and siblings. The bond that multiples have is unbreakable. Yeah, thank you so much for that. So then they say, it seems like a targeted event, said Clemente, who's an expert in criminal profiling. I think it was building up in him for a while and he just lashed out. Aaron Snell, the Idaho State Police Communications Director, told Fox News Digital that investigators were probing all leads. We have not come to any conclusion yet, and I know that's frustrating to the public, but this is a very complex and difficult case, he said. So there's the tip line as well. We're going to switch to this now. All right. And just in case, let's boost the volume. This volume has actually been really good. I'm very impressed with their press conferences compared to others we've watched.
Good afternoon. My name is Chief James Fry with the Moscow Police Department. Joining me today is Captain Roger Lanier with the Moscow Police Department, Moscow Deputy City Supervisor Tyler Palmer, Colonel Kedrick Wills of the Idaho State Police, University of Idaho President Scott Green, University of Idaho Dean of Students Blaine Eccles, and Latah County Prosecutor Bill Thompson. We are thankful for all the tips and leads the public has provided in Ethan, Xana, Kaylee, and Madison's murder investigation. No bit of information is too small, and every tip will be pursued. So far, this information has helped investigators build a picture of the areas of interest and the relationships these four had with each other and our community. We still believe there's more information to be gathered, which will continue creating a window through which we view this case. We all want to understand why this happened and what drove someone to do this. The families of those involved and our entire community deserve to know. We ask anyone with any information related to what happened with these four or in our community, their interaction with others, and whether they expressed concern or commented about someone or something strange to get that information to us. Even if you don't believe it is relevant, investigators will review and determine if and how your information builds the picture. Sometimes what a video or picture doesn't show is equally as important as what might be there. Information on how to submit tips and updates on the investigation can be found on the Moscow Police Department webpage. We continue moving forward to understand why this occurred in our community and seek answers to bring justice for the victims and their loved ones, because they deserve it. I personally want you to know we care, and we will continue to work hard to get these answers for these individuals. At this time, I'd like to introduce Captain Roger Lanier for an update on what we can currently share about this investigation.
Good afternoon. I'm Captain Roger Lanier with the Moscow Police Department. I want to assure you first off that the loss of Xana, Kaylee, Madison, and Ethan remains the highest priority for the Moscow Police Department. We will continue putting all of our resources into investigating and solving these murders. Investigators are prepared to work through the Thanksgiving holiday to continue their efforts. I also want to express our sincere appreciation to the Idaho State Police, the FBI, University of Idaho, and the Latah County Sheriff's Office for their assistance. And I especially want to thank the community of Moscow for their outpouring of support through this incredibly difficult time. Today, I'm going to recap in brief what we know. I'm going to provide some new information, and I'm going to address some rumors. On the evening of November 12th and into the early morning hours of November 13th, Kaylee and Madison arrived home at approximately 1:45 a.m. after visiting a local bar and a street food vendor. Ethan and Xana were also out in the community at Sigma Chi, and they arrived home at approximately 1:45 a.m. Two surviving roommates who were also out in the community arrived home at approximately 1 a.m. Later, on the morning of November 13th at 11:58 a.m., a 911 call was placed. The call reported an unconscious person. The call originated from inside the residence, and a surviving roommate's cell phone was used. During that call, the dispatcher spoke to multiple people who were on scene. Moscow police officers responded and found two victims, two on the second floor and two on the third floor of 1122 King Road. The results of autopsies indicated that the four were stabbed multiple times and were likely asleep during the attack. Some had defensive wounds, and there was no sign of sexual assault. We do not believe the following individuals were involved: the two surviving roommates, the male seen in a grub truck video circulating on the internet, a private party who drove Kaylee and Madison home, any of the individuals who spoke to the dispatcher on the 911 call. We're also aware of a male whom Madison and Kaylee had called several times the morning of November 13th, and we do not suspect that individual. Detectives have canvassed the neighborhoods looking for evidence, physical evidence, video surveillance, and they've contacted numerous residents to see if anybody may have seen or heard anything. They continue requesting tips that can be sent to our tip line or called in to our tip line. The specific areas that we're interested in are detailed on maps on our city website and our Facebook page, but as stated earlier, generally south of Taylor Avenue to Palouse River Drive, and the area west of US 95 over to the Arboretum. We have heard mention that Kaylee stated she may have had a stalker. Detectives have been looking into that, and to this point have been unable to corroborate the statement, although we continue to seek information and tips regarding that report. No suspects have been named or arrested, and we continue looking for what we believe to be a fixed blade knife used in the murders. We have not released the names of any of the subjects who spoke on the 911 call, and we have not released the call itself. Any online reports of the victims being tied and gagged are not accurate. Regarding the resources that we've put forth in this investigation, the Moscow Police Department has 4 detectives, 24 patrol officers, and 5 support staff dedicated to this investigation. The FBI has 22 investigators in Moscow and 20 additional agents assigned in various locations, as well as 2 members of the Behavioral Analysis Unit. The Idaho State Police has 20 investigators, a public information team, a forensic services and crime scene team, and 15 uniformed troopers who have been valuable in helping provide community patrols and safety patrols. We very much appreciate their support. This is our highest priority. It will remain our highest priority. We owe that to the families. At this time, I would like to introduce Colonel Kedrick Wills from the Idaho State Police.
Thank you, Captain, and thank you for those that are in attendance today for your attendance. We really appreciate this. What has affected Moscow and the community here has affected all of us as Idahoans. We have a way in Idaho that the communities come together in tough times, and this is one of those tough times. Leads from the community are important, and as the captain spoke, no tip is too small, and we would urge anybody that has any information whatsoever to please provide that to help us solve this case. The lead agency of this case is Moscow Police Department with Chief Fry and his dedicated team of professionals, and the Idaho State Police's role is to support them and their good work here. There is an awful lot of efforts going on behind the scenes, and I'll explain why it's behind the scenes in just a moment. But what can't be seen isn't always known of what we do in law enforcement, and I'd like to explain that in just a moment. But the Idaho State Police and the FBI continue to provide resources to this investigation. I would like to speak for just a moment, if I could, not about this specific case, but rather an overview of how cases are investigated, so that maybe it'll give some sense of the why of the timeline here. We understand you want answers. We want answers too. But these take time, and if I could explain just a minute about the process here of what we go through just generally in investigations. So we use in advanced investigative techniques and crime scene processing. So what happens when a call comes in, the original officers, the first officers that respond to a scene, and then once that they've got their work there and determined that they need some additional investigative assistance, then they call investigators to come and help process that scene. And oftentimes it requires a forensics team to help process that scene. And when I say process the scene, what we're looking for is we're looking for any evidence that may help us to be able to find the people or person responsible for what we're seeing. And so we're collecting biological evidence, we're collecting latent evidence, whether it's shoe prints or tire marks or anything like that. We're trying to collect that evidence. We're trying to we do that through photographs, we do that through 3D mapping to be able to map the scene. We identify and we mark evidence, and then we collect that evidence. And then we look for any evidence that we think may be helpful. And once that is done, then we package all that evidence up and we send it off to forensics laboratories to be analyzed to see if it can help provide clues of what's happening. All of this takes an immense amount of time. The reason this is important to understand is because it's important that while this is such a tragic circumstance that we find ourselves in law enforcement, we believe we owe this to the surviving families to get this right. And so we're not willing to sacrifice speed for quality. We do testing for blood, we do latent print processing, any documentations for anything at the scene so that we can reconstruct that scene at a later date. If I could share just a few statistics of this particular crime scene. At this crime scene, we collected 103 pieces of individual evidence. We took approximately 4,000 photographs. We've conducted multiple 3D scans of the residence, and we have hundreds of hours used by technicians and investigators, including our forensics team and detectives from multiple agencies. We've processed over 1,000 total tips and conducted 150 interviews. I hope that you understand that gives a little bit of a perception of just how complex this case is. We have the utmost confidence in this investigation and that this investigation will be done right. We ask you and we ask the public to please remain patient as this investigation unfolds. And please rely on official sources of information. We really appreciate the media's assistance. We know you have a job to do. We know that you're professionals and you do it to the best of your ability. And we're thankful that you're here, because without you, we could not get the correct information to the community that could help us solve this. So I can't overemphasize how much I appreciate and we appreciate in law enforcement your willingness to do this. What you are doing matters. And it matters in what we are committed to doing, and that is to the best way we can think of to honor these victims and their families is to conduct this investigation correctly. Finally, I'd like to share that I've been in regular contact with Idaho's Governor Brad Little throughout this investigation. Governor Little is making available up to $1 million for expenses related to this ongoing investigation. As you heard, the resources that are here in Moscow and throughout with this investigation, you can see that those expenses would add up quickly. Like all Idahoans, Governor Little is deeply saddened by the loss of these 4 bright and promising young lives. And he's making sure the state of Idaho provides all of the resources possible to ensure that the person or persons responsible for this are brought to justice. And now I'd like to turn the time over to the University of Idaho President, Scott Green.
Good afternoon. I'm Scott Green, President of the University of Idaho. We deeply appreciate the kind words of support we have been receiving from our alumni and friends, as well as many others who may not know us but have taken time to reach out. People are donating to the victims' GoFundMe pages and the Bruce Pittman Fund for Students in Need, and they're buying personal devices for our students and continuing to look for other ways that they can help. This is what it means to be a vandal. In the last 24 hours, we have sent updated communications to our students, employees, parents, and alumni. And in those communications, we discuss campus security, services available to our students and employees, our plans for both remote and live instruction to close the semester, and our plans for a candlelight vigil on November 30. All of this is available on our website. We all want swift justice and continue to work with law enforcement to aid them in any way helpful to their investigation. As the investigation continues, we will better know how to proceed in the new year. We will endeavor to find the balance among safety concerns, the need to grieve, and the long-term needs of all of our students and employees. Through everything we do, we will keep Kaylee, Madison, Xana, and Ethan, as well as their families and friends, in our thoughts and our prayers. Thank you. I'm sorry, I need to introduce Deputy City Supervisor Tyler Palmer. Tyler, sorry.
Good afternoon. My name is Tyler Palmer. I'm Deputy City Supervisor with the City of Moscow, and I'm here today on behalf of Mayor Arthur Betke, the Moscow City Council, and Moscow City Administration. The loss of Kaylee, Madison, Xana, and Ethan has sent an overwhelming, palpable wave of grief, confusion, sorrow, and anger through our peaceful community. Mayor Betke, with the support of our City Council, has instructed staff to marshal all necessary resources for our law enforcement professionals as they diligently work to assure the safety of every member of this community and find the person or people responsible for this. The outpouring of support, kindness, and genuine empathy locally and even globally has been a humbling reminder that those who want to help far outnumber those who want to hurt. And we take some solace in that. To all of you who've reached out, sent letters and cards, provided food for those working around the clock on this investigation, and offered other resources, we thank you sincerely. These continued acts of charity and humanity remind us why we live in this tight-knit, caring community. The City of Moscow is committed to seeing this investigation through to a successful end and will continue to dedicate whatever resources are necessary for that effort. We are thankful for the immense support from the University of Idaho, Lake County, Governor Little and his office, the Idaho State Police, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Moscow is my home. And I know we won't be defined by tragedy, but how we respond to it. We mourn the loss of these beautiful young people, and we will relentlessly pursue justice on their behalf. Thank you.
So we would like to open it up to any questions, but I would like to ask if there's an Argonaut reporter here that would like to ask. And then second after that, an Evergreen reporter, if there's one in the room. So let's start with the Argonaut, please.
I'm with the LCC Pathfinder.
James Tormund Aldrich with the Argonaut. I have two questions, if that's all right. Firstly being what the police presence is going to look like after Thanksgiving break and how long that's going to last.
So I'll go ahead and answer. The police presence is going to be very heavy after the break. We have Idaho State Patrol that will also still be in the area, and you'll see a high impact of patrol officers and troopers, as well as Lake County Sheriff's Department personnel in the area.
And then secondly, will there be any possibility of the release of the 911 phone call, even in transcript form?
Not at this time. That's part of our investigation.
Daily Evergreen.
Frankie Beer, the Daily Evergreen. I guess the Moscow PD press release mentioned looking into hundreds of pieces of information about Kaylee's potential stalker. I was wondering what led you to believe she did have a stalker possibly, and why those pieces of information haven't come up with conclusive results.
I'm actually going to let Captain Lanier answer this question, okay?
Thank you, Chief. We obtained information through some of our interviews that Kaylee had made some comments about a stalker, so that's where that came from. We have followed up looking at specific time frames in specific areas of town. So far, we have not been able to corroborate it, but we're not done looking into that piece of information. Thank you.
Dan Springer, Fox News. If I can get Captain Lanier. Sir, why not tell the public who the target was? You've said that this was a targeted attack. Why not tell the public who was targeted? If it was multiple people, it would go a long ways to telling the public what you're looking for and who you're looking for, the type of person you're looking for. Why not do that to alleviate some of the fears out there in the community?
Well, first and foremost, we have the integrity of the investigation to preserve. And we feel like that information is integral to us and how we conduct our investigation. Releasing that to the public may or may not flood us with a lot of information that's not relevant or specific to what we're looking at. So want more information from the public? We do want more information, but we don't want to put our investigation in jeopardy by releasing what we have. There's always a balance between what you're willing to release versus what you're trying to gather. We told the public very clearly from the beginning that we're looking for a knife. We've told the public very clearly from the beginning that we believe it was a targeted attack. I mean, to be honest, you're going to have to trust us on that at this point, because we're not going to release why we think that.
Lauren Patterson, Northwest Public Broadcasting. I see that the FBI set up a special web page just to collect digital information. I'm also curious if any of the investigators can speak to this. Curious if the Wi-Fi hotspot has been tapped at all. It's possible if the suspect had their phone on them, it may have pinged off the Wi-Fi in the residence. Has that been checked on at all?
As I stated, our investigation is looking at every avenue of every piece of evidence that we can. The FBI has given us a website for any downloads of video or anything. So we ask people, if you have any of that, to send it to us, please.
Thank you. Natasha Chen, CNN. I have a couple of questions here. One, in many homicide cases, the first hours, the first days are so incredibly crucial. Now that we're moving into a window that's further and further away from the incident, does that concern you about the ability to arrest a suspect, or do you have information that you simply can't share with us that makes you confident that you're close to solving this?
I'm going to have the Colonel step up and address that, please.
Well, thank you for the question, and I would like to address it a little more globally than specifically, a little more globally here. Yes, as time goes on, I mean, we're time past the initial calls for service and the initial crime. However, we also, as time goes on, are able to process the forensics evidence, any forensics evidence that we may have collected. And so that helps us. And we're also able to process the tips that continue to come in, which may help us. And so while time in one respect is not beneficial, in another respect it is, because it helps provide us with that whole picture with all of the information that we're gathering, whether it's evidence or tips or any other information that we're gathering, it may help us to provide a clearer picture. And so it may help answer those questions that we're seeking as well.
Hi, Angela Palermo, Idaho Statesman. I was wondering if there's any evidence that suggests the attacker visited the first floor where the 2 surviving roommates were.
That information will not be released at this time. It's part of our investigation. And as we stated earlier, there's many things that are involved in an investigation that we will release and things we won't.
Good afternoon, Ashley Soriano, Fox News. I have 2 questions. Have you considered the possibility of a murder-suicide? Is that something that you guys are considering right now?
That question has been asked previously, not at a press conference. It's certainly something that we looked at in the early part of the investigation. It is not something that we're looking at this time.
And I know some of the investigators' vehicles and police vehicles are coming in and out of the driveway. Do you think that potentially could disturb any tire marks or other evidence?
Yeah, so the question has been asked about why did the crime scene tape expand? And that's not uncommon. When the first officers arrived, they tried to cordon off what they thought was important. We immediately expanded that when the investigators got there to process the scene. And logically, as this progresses, and you've seen this through our press releases, we have expanded it to several areas of the city and have in fact canvassed entire neighborhoods. So we try very, very hard to uncover every single bit of evidence possible in an area before we move on to the next area. So yes, we've looked at everything that we think we need to look at in and around the crime scene at this point.
But do you believe that cars coming back and forth in the driveway, potentially like tire marks or foot marks, that there could have been?
Well, it's a gravel parking area, so it would be hard to say that.
How are you folks holding up? How are your detectives and officers holding up? And Chief, you mentioned that detectives are prepared to work tomorrow on Thanksgiving. So is the expectation that they will be?
That is correct. We're going to have many detectives and agents working all the way through this incident. Our people are dedicated. Our people care about this community. Our people want to ensure the community that we're here to bring safety and we're here to get a resolve on this. So we will continue to push through. We'll give people time off as they need it, and we will continue to take care of them. But we're gonna keep pushing on this until we come to a conclusion.
Chris Mitchell, KLEW. Is there any plans to increase security for the Apple Cup on Friday?
I can't speak to what's going on in the state of Washington. I can only speak to what we're doing here on the campus of the University of Idaho in concert with President Green and his team. We are absolutely, with the Idaho State Police and the Moscow Police Department, we are 100% dedicated to making sure that this continues to be a safe place for students to do what students need to do. And so that's why we have so many uniformed troopers here that aren't necessarily assisting with the investigation, but rather here to help with the campus security. And President Green and his team have been fantastic in helping to strike that balance to make sure that we have law enforcement resources here. So while I can't speak what's going on anywhere else, I can tell you at the University of Idaho, we have a lot of state troopers, a severe increase of state troopers and Moscow police officers here, both on campus as well as throughout the community.
John Gabell, ABC News. Are investigators looking at any possible connection to an unsolved double stabbing in the Salem, Oregon area about a year and a half ago? Specifically, 2 people stabbed in their home in the middle of the night, long knife, no suspect at this point. One died, one survived.
I think we're looking at every avenue, and we have other agencies reaching out to us with other cases and stuff that we are doing follow up on, and we will continue to follow up on those.
Are you aware of that case?
Actually, I had a tip come in on that case, and I forwarded it to our tip line.
Okay, one more question. Can you confirm the bodies have been released to the families or are being so released today?
I believe they have been released to the family, and I know that I believe one of them has already had a funeral.
Destiny Martin with the LCSC Pathfinder. Can you lend any insights into the possibility that the murder weapon is linked to the ROTC program? And also you mentioned that the analysis unit is here. Will we be able to hear anything from them about a working profile they possibly have? And on that note, have you guys ruled out the possibility that the killer might be a female?
So we look at every avenue. We're looking at every group of people. Like I said early in our first press conference, we're not going to let any stone go unturned. I believe can you just clarify your second portion of that question? Oh, the BAU, sorry.
Yes, I would like to know if the BAU has a working profile because, you look at victimology. Sure. Are you able to tell us who was killed first on the time of death so that we may understand if it was a targeted attack, it would make the most sense if they killed one of the roommates first and then maybe the other two, I'm not, sure. This is not speculation, I'm getting off topic. My question is are you guys looking at a working profile? Have they come up with anything new regarding the motive or intentions of the killer or killers?
The BAU unit is working diligently to do what they do. Will that be provided? I'm sure that may be provided once the conclusion of this case comes together. But they are continually taking in information and reading reports and gathering information for that.
Good afternoon, Chief. Amanda Rowley with Crime 2. Seeing some speculation with some of the cars being searched this past week. Wondering if you can squash some of the rumors and that speculation. Is there anything you can share specifically on the white car out front? And then a follow-up for the university.
So I'll have Captain Lanier go ahead and come up with that.
Thank you.
Well, we have looked at a lot of different vehicles. I'm assuming you're referring to the vehicles that were in the parking lot at the time. Yeah, so some of those vehicles belonged to the victims and some belonged to other people in the house. And so for us, that's part of the crime scene. As I mentioned earlier, the crime scene was expanded out through the parking lot. So we wanted to make sure that we looked at those prior to releasing the crime scene. It was part of the initial investigation that night.
Thank you. And for the university, is there any additional information at this time that you can offer about the candlelight vigil, maybe what we can expect from that? And then any other information you can provide about that ask of the community to light the night on November 30th?
Thank you for that. I'm going to turn this over to Blaine Eccles at this point. He's actually planning the whole event. So we appreciate it.
Good afternoon. I'm Blaine Eccles, Dean of Students. The vigil is going to be hosted next Wednesday, November 30th at 5 p.m. We have it scheduled for the administration lawn at the moment. We're going to make a final determination on location early next week, just because we're waiting for the weather window to get closer, so we feel comfortable that that's where it will be located. We're anticipating a large turnout of community members as well as university members, students, faculty, and staff at that particular event. And all of the families have been invited to join us if they so wish from that aspect of it. The response has just been absolutely beautiful and overwhelming to the love that has been provided to the institution as well as the family members. The Light the Night event that you're talking about, while I don't have a lot of details on that, is set to coincide at the same time, just so that people that can't be here in person as part of the vigil are going to be able to participate remotely as well. The vigil will be live streamed, and it's safe to say that the Vandal family is going to unite and come together to support the families in the darkest moments of their life, quite frankly.
So I'm going to go ahead and take 2 more questions, okay?
Jordan Smith, KXLY. At this point in time, do investigators know which entrance the suspect used to enter the residence? If this was someone who might have known the door code at the front or maybe used the back door?
Once again, that's part of our investigation. We're not going to release that information this time. Thank you.
Noah Bolter, Moro News 8. You said this was a targeted event. You won't tell us why they were targeted. What should students do to prevent being targeted in the future?
Well, that's a great question, especially in light of what just happened. If you would have asked us 9 days ago, we would have had probably a different answer. Moscow's always been a very safe community. In light of this, and maybe we should always look at it this way, vigilance, always traveling in pairs, knowing where you're going, telling someone when you arrive, and just that kind of general awareness. Maybe we should, as a community, have always been doing that. You know, in some ways, this took our innocence. I would tell students that you need to stay with a friend. I know that the university staff is looking at different options to increase some of the safety on campus and providing certain options to students. So yeah, going forward, there's a lot of things that maybe we wish we would have done before, but we need to start doing now.
So I'm going to go ahead and close, but what we do want to let our community know that we do care. We do want to provide a safe environment. We will continue to work hard, and we'll continue to do everything we can. We want people to be vigilant. We want people to report anything suspicious to us and let us get there and handle it. But we are here to provide that safety. So I want to thank you today for coming, and I appreciate your questions.
Okay, that was awesome. Now we're going to break it all down. Are we all ready? I'm quickly going to play a little intermission. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for watching that here with me. I really appreciate it. Let me just quickly put this off so it's not distracting us. All right, let's just do this. Cool. So I hope that you guys took notes as well. Do you take notes? I sure hope so. If you didn't know, I make notebooks, Grizzly notebooks, so you could take lots of notes. I almost finished one here. So let's go over everything they said. There were some slight little tiny little bits of new information. I find it interesting they're still sticking to that timeline, the 1:45 a.m. That they're just saying Ethan and Zaina and Maddie and Kaylee arrived home at 1:45. So that's interesting. Yes, and sorry, I'm laughing at a comment there. Okay, so keep sharing your thoughts. Thank you for being here with me. And they say, so James Fry spoke first. Of course, there was about more info being gathered and the tip line and the website and everything, which I know we are still yet to look at, which I think was, yeah, it was literally this website right here. I'll show you in a moment. This one. This one right here is what they shared from their Facebook page. It is ci.moscow.id.us and a whole bunch of other things. It's on from their Facebook page. I'll link it below for you. So you can see here one location, easy to find for everyone to be able to submit tips either to the FBI, digital media, very important, and email. Can you imagine the amount of digital media that they may be receiving? Think about the social media posts from the party that Ethan and Zaina went to. Think about the corner club. Imagine that footage and just everything. Okay, so we've got that. Yeah, you did say approximately 145. Correct. Then Captain Roger Lanier spoke and said that the loss remains their highest priority. They're using all resources. They are working through the Thanksgiving holiday. Kaylee and Maddie and Ethan and Zaina arrived home at approximately 1:45 a.m. and 1 a.m. for the other two roommates. I find it interesting how that last question was so good okay, you say this is a targeted attack, so what should students do in order to prevent being targeted in the future? And they're like, very good question, very good. And then the answers that were given were be vigilant, travel in pairs, have general awareness, tell someone where you're going, and stay with a friend. Now, the thing is, of course, Zaina and Ethan stayed together. They went to a party together. He was sleeping over. They were together the whole night. The other two roommates went out together. They came home together. And then, of course, Maddie and Kaylee also. That's exactly what Kaylee's sister said. They did everything right. They used the buddy system. They got a private driver. They didn't drive. They didn't drink and drive. They stuck together. They came home, let the dog out for potty, and then locked the door. So, that information wasn't that useful because that's what they did. And yes, everyone must be vigilant, but it was very general information, right? Yes. Welcome to all the new members. Thank you all for being here. Really appreciate it. For the people that left the stream, damn, you're going to miss out. We're going to be discussing all this now, okay? Sorry, I'm reading. You say, dumbest question I've ever heard. I actually thought the last question was pretty good because it kind of trapped them into having to answer. Okay, so if you think this was a targeted attack, how can we prevent being targeted? I thought it was just good to get some more information out. There's a reason that they asked that, right? So then they said the following people they do not believe are involved in the crime. 2 surviving roommates, the guy on the grub truck footage, which they referred to as Hoodie Guy, which would be Jack number 3, right? Remember the slide with the Jacks? I hope you guys remember that. I see there's still a lot of confusion about who's who in the Jack world. Which Jack are we talking about, I'm trying to see if I've got it here on my slide. Hold on. Yeah. Here we go. In case anyone is still confused, screenshot it and save it to your damn phone. So we've got Jack 1, 2, and 3. They said they do not believe the following people are involved in this crime. The 2 surviving roommates, the ones who got tattoos, we saw them earlier. The grab truck guy, which is White Hoodie Guy, which is the guy that I put in the green, Jack Showalter, not the wrestler. There's many people with that name and surname. Food truck Hoodie Guy, lives on Queen Road, the neighbor, recently kicked out of the fraternity for anger issues. Allegedly kicked out of the corner club that night for creeping people out. Knife for hunting skills. Allegedly has a K-bar knife. We saw it in photos. And police say they've identified him and spoken to him. Now, there is an important thing to consider is normally in cases we see them talk about a person of interest. And we also, of course, see them with a list of reward. There is no reward at this point, which is interesting. And maybe it's too soon for that. I don't know. If this were missing people, there would definitely be a reward right now. But anyway, there's no reward fund yet for catching the killer. I hope they will have that soon because it might help, right? But there is a distinguishing terminology where they say, we do not believe the following people are involved in the crime, right? Now, when they talked about a male who they called, they do not suspect that individual. But it doesn't mean that any of these people, I'm just saying it's not a person of interest. I'm just saying it's a language thing. But definitely, of course, still the way they said the 2 surviving roommates, the grub truck, which would be Jack number 3, the private driver, and anyone who spoke to the dispatcher. And yet, when asked about the 911 call, then they say, well, we can't release that because it's part of our investigation. If you suspect absolutely no one that was on that 911 call, we know it was multiple people, then why can't you release it? They say it's still because it's part of our investigation. So it's still interesting, right? And then after that, there was a pause, and they say they are aware of a male who Kaylee and Maddie called. they do not suspect that individual. And then that's how they said it. So I was like, oh, okay. And they might not. I'm not saying I suspect him. I just don't know. That would be Jack number 1, Kaylee's childhood friend, dated for several years. They recently decided on an amicable split, which Kaylee's mom said was Kaylee saying, oh, I need a break. So, of course, I understand why people still suspect him because, number 1, he's the co-owner of the Labradoodle. So the dog would have known him. Number 2, because they just had a split. She said she needs a break, but then Kaylee just got a Range Rover, a new job in Texas. I mean, she's young and beautiful. Everything's going for her. And this could have been like a huge threat of abandonment, right? So sometimes that can make people do strange things. I don't think it's this. I don't think that I've never heard of this as an abandonment issue, but you just never know, right? Or rage or whatever it is. I know some people have said it's also if I can't have you, no one can. That happens a lot in true crime as well. So I understand. Anyway, so then it's also the last person that Kaylee called. It was 7 calls from Kaylee's phone, 3 from Maddie's phone, and that's also part of the investigation. The stalker, they've not been able to corroborate that, but are still looking into that. And then they listed all the stuff they're looking into. Of course, physical evidence, video evidence, forensics, just everything that we know. That's police work. We expect them to do that, right? And they are looking for a fixed blade knife. And they want to, again, clarify that the victims were not tied or gagged. I guess a lot of people say, like, why are they saying that? Why do they have to say that again? We got nothing. Do you know how many times we've gone over even these slides? And there's still people in this chat today that don't know which Jack is who. There's 3 Jacks, there's a Jake, and there's a Joe. And there's even a potential stalker out there too. But then just remember, they've never once mentioned Jack number 2. I'm just saying. Ethan paid Jack K for something on Saturday, November 12th. And that was at 10:40 p.m. He was the first to donate to Ethan's memorial GoFundMe, and it's rumored that he started the GoFundMe and he's likely from the same fraternity. Maybe he's got information about the party. I'm sure they've interviewed him. What happened at the party? Did anything happen? Did you see anyone? Did anyone get into a fight? You know what I mean? You just don't know. You just don't know. Devil's advocate. Definitely not Captain Jack Sparrow. There's only one Captain Jack Sparrow. Yes. Yes, Vanderchim says, Grizzly, do your homework. Learn the Jacks. Please learn the Jacks. Screenshot the Jacks. Share the Jacks. All I ask is that you please tag my channel or use hashtag Grizzly True Crime or tag me on Twitter or wherever you share it. I'd really appreciate it. Kathleen R says, I've wondered if Jack had a voicemail message during any of her 10 calls. I mean, maybe. And the last text that Kaylee also sent to Jack was, come on, we share a dog. Can you get back to me? So that was interesting. I do find it interesting. I can't be like, no, there's nothing to see here, people. He is completely innocent. I mean, he probably is, but I just can't say that at this point. You know, I think it'll be irresponsible. Just be like, blind yourselves. There is nothing to see here. As you know, I don't trust anyone or anything. So my red flag's always pinging for everyone and everything until ruled out. And so far they've not ruled out, but said we do not suspect the following people are being involved in the crime. The 2 surviving roommates, the grab truck guy and the private party. Anyone who spoke to the dispatcher, okay? But then you are looking at the cars. The car belongs to Dylan and her boyfriend. It looks like her boyfriend's driving sometimes she's driving. Maybe it's her car. The white vehicle they asked about. Who's Dylan? One of the surviving roommates. Dylan and Bethany, okay? We looked at it yesterday on the slide. Yes, exactly. Jaden says, they said we have not named or arrested a suspect. They did not say they don't have one. Exactly. That I'm also saying. They don't say. That's what I mean. Sometimes you got to listen to what they're not saying. They did not say we don't have a person of interest. They're just not saying, especially over this Thanksgiving holiday coming up with everyone also leaving the area and staying safe and everything. Maybe they have the eye on someone and they're watching, you know? Okay, so they mentioned 4 detectives, 24 patrol officers, 5 support staff, 22 in Moscow, FBI detectives, FBI agents, 20 in additional locations. So that's good as well, as we saw. All right. Marie says, I agree, Grizzly, the dog being mentioned as shared is sus. The other thing that I found so weird is when they say on their Facebook page, yeah, where did they talk about the dog? I think it was a post just before that. They talk about, it was on their page earlier. With a dog, I just found their language so weird of like the night of the incident. I'm like, it wasn't the night of when on Sunday night they found a dog there, and then it was put in someone else's care. First taken by animal services, and then now it's in someone's care, which seems to be Jack because it's his dog, his and Kaylee's. And I think it was him. I think he bought the dog for them, which could already, I'm just going to speculate for a second. I'm not saying he's a suspect. I'm just saying I understand why people look at him still, because I think he bought the dog for Kaylee thinking, oh no, like I feel like I'm losing her. Let me get a dog that we can share, you know? They can't just like have a family right now. They're very young. They can't just like, let's have a baby, you know, let's get a dog and we could share the dog and we could be together forever, right? And then she's like, I need a break. Yeah, I need a break. And then her break is going out partying, you know, going to the corner club, going to wherever, and then moving to Texas with a new Range Rover. Damn. And a great job. She had everything going for her, you know? I think she was slipping out of his hands for sure. So I understand why people still look at him. Okay, so Colonel Kedrick will say there's no tip too small. They're prioritizing quality over speed. And of course, he said they took 4,000 photographs. That's a lot of photographs. That sounds like a very gruesome scene, huh? 3D scans, hundreds of hours of forensics and detectives and everything, 1,000 tips they've got now, and they've done 150 interviews. So like 60 more or so from last time. They said it's a very complex case, which we always hear in true crime, every press conference, a very complex case, but I'm sure this is a very complex case. They've got utmost confidence in this investigation and they remain patient. All right, they say we must remain patient and we must only rely on official sources. They got $1 million for expenses from the governor. I think that $1 million would be burned up so quick, it'll be like whoosh, gone. I think they might need more than that. Anyway, on November 30th, there will be a candlelight vigil. They will be live streaming it as well. Tyler Palmer also talked, the deputy city supervisor's assistant, or was he the deputy city supervisor? I wrote deputy city supervisor. He said in tragedies like this, I'm leaving the Jack thing up so that you guys can make sure. Now you know. Okay. He said that in these tragic circumstances, it's always great to see that there's more people that want to help than hurt. He was very emotional as well, which is, I think it's always nice to see, when there's a human connection to the tragedy in the community. And they said they will also have a police presence during Thanksgiving and afterwards, heavy police presence. So that took us to the Q&A section. And then I had to start a new notebook because I finished that one now with all my scribbling. So question one. What will the police presence be after Thanksgiving? And the answer was really heavy police presence, still lots of security. They're going to make sure the community is safe. The second question was about releasing the 911 call. They said, no, they can't do that. That's part of the investigation. All right. Ooh, that's interesting. Grizzly true crime, speculation. But do you think it's possible they cut the power at the house and that's what prompted the calls to Jack? It would also explain no Ring doorbell footage after return. Very interesting. We don't know that they have no Ring doorbell footage though, right? I think they've got the footage. I think Kaylee's sister got it from the neighbor, right? But interesting. It is interesting. Thank you so much. All right. Question number 3. They asked about Kaylee's stalker. They said Kaylee made comments about a stalker, but they've not been able to corroborate it, but they are still looking. Okay, I want to take the jacks off for a second. Question 4. Why not tell the public who was targeted? They said, of course, they're protecting the integrity of the investigation. They've got that to preserve. They have to balance what they are willing to release versus what they want to gather. They believe it's a targeted attack still. Now, what's interesting that was mentioned is, of course, sorry, my green screen is going all fuzzy there. Sorry about that. What's interesting is that Ethan has already had a funeral. Ethan's been buried. The other 3, the question at the end was, are you going to release their bodies to the families today? Well, that's interesting to me. That means the 3 girls, their bodies were not released to their families yet, and they've not had their funerals yet. I don't know what to make of that. Right? Except that maybe they'd have to investigate that much more. Actually, that would mean that I'm speculating, in my personal opinion, that Ethan was attacked first, because the other three would then have the commingling of the blood that we looked at earlier, and that could really take a lot to investigate. So that's what I'm thinking. Let me know what you think. Okay. Then they talked about the FBI's webpage and people being able to submit tips and things, and they asked about the Wi-Fi hotspot being tapped, and they didn't quite answer that. They were asking if maybe a suspect tapped into the Wi-Fi, or if they've looked into that, and they just said the investigation is looking at every piece of evidence. Okay, they say, as time goes on, is it now are they losing hope, or is time in their favor or not? And the captain, was it a captain here that answered? They are processing forensic evidence and tips, which means that on one hand, yes, it's not great when time is going on and they don't have a person of interest yet, not that we know of. But they said time's also beneficial for them because they're busy processing information. Forensics, I mean, all the DNA and everything, and all the photos and digital evidence, just everything. They asked if there's any evidence to suggest that the attacker visited the first floor. And they weren't able to say, no, they didn't even go to the first floor. They say they are not releasing that info. So they didn't just say, oh no, that's part of our investigation. Like, we're not releasing that info. So that's interesting. You know, I can think many things. Let me know what you think. Yes, they didn't answer the question with the ROTC either. Nancy, yes. Is the chat moving too fast? Thank you, Yarn and Mittens. I'll slow it down a little bit more. I know there's a lot of people here, and I really appreciate it. If you don't like slow mode, for $1, you can join membership, and then slow mode doesn't apply to you. I would do it if I were you, because I hate slow mode. And then on another channel, sometimes they have slow mode on at 5 minutes. I nearly pull my hair out. I can't take it. I'm just like, I just want to say hi. I just want to ask a question. And it's like 5 minutes. Like, I can't do. Anyway, so membership helps. Okay, and mine is very affordable, $1. Okay, moving on. Question number 8. Have they considered the possibility of a murder and then an unaliving? Hello, green screen, work with me. A murder. I'm just going to say the word. YouTube hates this word, but a murder-suicide. Okay. They said they ruled that out. They didn't rule it out early on, but they've been asked that before. And I do believe that was one of, hello, green screen, work with me. What are you doing? Yeah, okay, there we go. Sorry. It's like the pen and penning. No, this is not working out very well today. I'm going to hit you. Okay. So they were asked that very early on, and they already said they don't think it's that. They don't think it's that, right? Sunny says, I just want to say hi. Yeah, exactly. Gickle says, I figured there's a whole lot more to this. Ethan maybe has less injuries. That's what I'm thinking. We never really thought about that. But Ethan, he's already had his funeral, already been buried. I'm like, ooh, okay. Yes, interesting question. If they went to the first floor. Uh-huh. Okay, so number 9, they were asking if law enforcement vehicles could disturb evidence, and they said it's not uncommon to expand the crime scene, and they've expanded to several other areas in the city. Of course they would, but expand it to other areas of the city. Probably, all the areas where they party, maybe every weekend. Maybe they go to the corner club every single weekend, maybe every Saturday. We don't know that. But if they do, they're going to have to look through surveillance footage for the weeks leading up to this. How are detectives holding up? They didn't really answer that. They just said that they're working over Thanksgiving and that they're very dedicated. They asked about the Oregon stabbing, if that was connected at all, if they believe it's connected. They answered with they're looking at every avenue, and they have actually they've received that through a tip, and then they forwarded it to their tip team, right? Tip line team. And they are speaking to other agencies. If you don't know what we're talking about, we have covered that other case as well. So please check out my playlist on this case, and then you'll find it there. Exactly, Jesse. They've never even talked about Jack number 2. They've never mentioned anyone from the Sigma Chi party. Blockella said, do we know anything about the former 6th roommate? We really don't. And then I see there's a lot of speculation starting to ramp up now with who owns that property. And apparently the person who owns the property's son is still listed as a tenant there. That could just be old information, meaning that he's still listed as living there, although that could also be very interesting. Choni Martinez, when's the next press conference? Who knows? We don't know. We literally don't know, right? Okay, sorry if I'm missing anyone. I'm trying to keep up with all of you. Chris Caprola says, oh, thank you for your super sticker. I'm like, you say, never mind. Thank you so much. They asked if there's going to be increased security for the Apple Cup on Friday, and they said they can't speak to Washington. I would assume that's Washington University, right? Yes. And they also said, have the bodies been released to the families? Are they going to be released today? And they say, oh, they believe, yeah. There was a very vague answer, but they believe there's already one that's been released and had their funeral. We know that. That would be Ethan. And again, I then speculate that he was attacked first, which makes sense for any perpetrator. You're going to take out the athletic male, right? And then take the other 3 girls. And Zaina had defensive wounds. So it would seem like they attacked on the 2nd floor first. I'm speculating. That's just based on what I'm hearing there. Because the others would obviously have the blood of other victims, as they said earlier, commingling. And that would make the investigation more complicated DNA-wise. Thank you, Rose Thorne, for becoming a member. Alicia Lynette, I would be looking at everyone's hands around me. Yes. Cause using a knife often slips and causes cuts. Thank you for all you do in educating us and being the number one, in my opinion, for real true crime reporting. Thank you so much. Thank you, Alicia. So then they said, do you believe that the murder weapon is linked to the ROTC program? We looked at the ROTC program. It's a program that prepares students for the Marines or the US military. And they may issue fixed blade knives such as a K-bar knife. They said they're looking at every group of people. I thought that was interesting language in any case. We're looking at every group of people, okay? Every group of people, including then, they didn't say this, but I'm just filling in some blanks there, including, of course, because the questions about the ROTC program. We're looking at every group of people. And that lady, she asked about 6 questions in one. It was like, and do you believe the killer could be female? And does the BAU have a working profile? And the general answer there was, we're working diligently. Gregory Worth, thank you so much. Since no forced entry, it could be a killer. Went downstairs and tried doors, but they were locked and knew he'd have to force them open, giving them time to call 911. But knew he would have to force them open. Could be as well. And the downstairs roommates also said, there was an interview, I think it was on the New York Post before, where they said, they said that they locked their doors. Interesting. Christina G, thank you for becoming a member. Matt Bond says, that's too much blood. All 4 would be contaminated. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. We're talking about the stabbing DNA. If you're, oh man, I don't want to talk graphic. We don't talk graphic on the channel. If someone is attacking one, the first one could be processed a little bit quicker than the others, because once you take that knife to the next person, then the first person's blood will be carried over. And then when you go to the next person, it's the first and second person's blood. You see what I'm saying? And by the 4th person, it's the first, second, and third person's. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, so they also, question 15 was, the car is being searched? There's a white car in particular. We looked at that yesterday. So if you missed that in yesterday's coverage, please check it out. I've shortened that stream for you, so it's only 55 minutes, and I put in timestamps for you, I believe, on yesterday's one. Maybe I just put the sources. It's towards the last 15 minutes or so, I think. Happy Haggies, thank you so much. I haven't seen you in a while. Thank you for being here. But they talked about the car. The car belongs to either, they actually said the car belongs to, all the vehicles they searched belong either to the victims or to some people in the house. Some people in the house. They didn't say to the victims and the other 2 roommates. They said some people in the house, which yesterday I showed you a picture. I blurred out the guy's face, but of Dylan and Bethany. Now everyone knows their names, the surviving roommates who got the tattoos. Dylan's boyfriend. I think it's his white car. And for all of you that yesterday, remember we saw and you said the steering wheel's on the wrong side, it's because the pictures that they upload is mirrored. It's switched. You could see it by the logos and stuff in the car and the, you know, if you just look at that. Thank you, Jaden. Okay, what am I missing? What am I missing? SW4x4 Explorers, Laura Hobbs. Apple Cup equals University of Washington and Washington State. Thank you so much. Nothing to do with the Apple Cup, but Pullman, WA is close to Moscow ID. Thank you so much. So yeah, I guess that's why they were asking, and they just said they cannot answer to that. They're only answering to what's happening in Moscow and the University of Idaho. KDK says, why summon friends over first before calling 911? I cannot make sense of that. I've seen some profilers say that maybe the doors were locked, and some of those doors that's got like a, you know, a lock on both sides. You can lock it from the inside and the outside, and apparently the doors were locked and they were unresponsive. I don't know. That could be that, but I'm not sure. I can't make sense of it myself. It's a bit difficult for me to think about, like, exactly what happened. Why did they summon friends over first? And one idea I had of this unconscious person was actually based on a rumor that initially came out in the first few days of, let's say, the two unharmed roommates are sleeping downstairs. They're having, like, sleeping in, right? Someone else is supposed to, maybe they come there every Sunday for brunch, pancakes, whatever. Someone else could have walked into that sliding door, you know, gone through the sliding door, as maybe they always did. I'm speculating now. And I don't know, either seen bloody footprints from the dog, or being like, what the hell happened here? Or saw something that made them faint. And maybe that's the unconscious person they reported. I don't know. You know, it just, I'm not too sure. I think that's, as they say, is part of the investigation. Miss Muffet says, what number is ex-boyfriend Jack? I want to put it on again. He's Jack number 1 on my slide. Jack number 1 is Kaylee's childhood friend. They dated for several years. They dated for 5 years. Okay. They recently decided on an amicable split, but Kaylee's mother said it was actually her. She broke up with him, saying, I need a break. Yeah, Jill says, I'm busting that door down, just saying. Me too. Busting that door right down. I agree. Okay, so they've looked at different vehicles, many of them. Some vehicles are victims and some belong to people in the house. And then they asked about the vigil, 5 p.m. November 30th. It's going to be live streamed. I'm not sure if I'm going to live stream that. Tammy says the killer had to be shoeless, crazy, no blood outside the scene. Yeah, it's really strange that there's no blood outside the scene. And therefore, I speculate that the killer would have arrived. Let's say, so I'm just throwing out a crazy idea that I have right now, right? They take off their shoes and they're walking around in socks around the house so that they're not, maybe they're much more quiet. And then the plan is, of course, once you do all this horrendous stuff, you can literally walk out that sliding door, put your shoes on, and go without the bloody shoe prints. That could be why. That could be a reason. And as I said before, if you missed it, maybe everyone asking about the dog, why is the dog not barking while this person is doing this? Maybe as the person came through the sliding door, if that's where they went through, maybe the dog ran outside, all excited. Oh, cool, I get to go outside now, you know? Thank you so much, Laura. You say Daniel is local to me. Thank you for keeping it up. Yeah. Thank you for continuing to follow it. I've got a whole playlist for that case as well, you guys. Daniel Robinson, go check it out. There's a lot of things you could check out. If you ever feel like, oh, I don't know what to watch, there's a lot of playlists I made for you guys. I hope that you will have a look. Yeah. Okay. So I think we've gone through everything they said in the press conference. I don't want to make this too long. It's already been so long, man. The recap was so long. And I'll see all of you, everyone, very soon again. There's still lots to catch up on. There's the Petitos versus the Laundries and that whole case as well to catch up on. Lots of stuff. Leilani Simon in the Quinton Simon case was in court today. No. She waived her right to be there. So she appeared via Zoom, but there's no bond. She's got no bond. So we're looking at those updates as well. There's always something in true crime. Okay, everyone. Bye.